Hey everyone, welcome to the channel for another Escape from Tarkov video. It's been a few weeks since I posted some weapon builds, so in this one, I've got a few more barter trades that should help you set up some nice builds for a bit of a discount. In this one, I'm focusing specifically on some higher level barter trades from level 3 and 4 mechanic that help shave off a little bit of the price and get you a nice PvP weapon. I've looked at quite a few barter trade builds at lower levels, and these are focused towards higher level players with endgame attachments. So with that intro out of the way, let's take a look at the first build I have for you, based off an SA58 barter trade at level 4 mechanic that lets you put together a meta SA58 build for a nice little discount. For this build, the barter trade it's based on is at mechanic level 4, getting you a suppressed SA58 by trading 4 Nixor camera lenses, which generally run about 20 to 25,000 rubles on the flea market. What we're going to do with most of the parts on here though is to sell them off back to mechanic and use that money to buy new parts for the build. You get about 68,000 rubles back if you sell the hybrid 46 suppressor, handguard, and stock, but keep the dust cover and pistol grip. Once this is done, you have the base for a build with the railed dust cover and best in slot pistol grip for only about 20 to 30,000 rubles total. The first addition to this build is the muzzle device, starting with the LANTAC A3 adapter for the blast mitigation device from Peacekeeper level 3. This allows you to attach the LANTAC blast mitigation device and the LANTAC dragon compensator from Peacekeeper level 3 and 4 respectively, which gives you best in slot recoil stats on the muzzle device. Next, the handguard is the CASV FAL handguard sold by mechanic level 4. This is the best in slot option and takes special 2 and 5 inch CASV rails from mechanic level 4 to add attachments. For the grip, I went with the ZENIT RK1 foregrip to get a good balance of recoil with a little bit of ergonomics as well, and I also added an X400 flashlight and laser combo. Flashlights have recently been buffed to blind other players much more effectively, so in my opinion, it's a must-have attachment. The dust cover is already attached in this barter trade, so I just add an EOTech hollow sight for my general purpose optic. Though you can swap this for whatever you prefer, just keep in mind that that might affect the build cost. Finally, the last item you need for this one is the SA58 BRS stock, sold by mechanic level 3, which has best in slot stats for the SA58 in the 12.7 patch at a reasonable price. When it's all put together, this build comes out with 70 recoil and 54 ergonomics with a 30 round mag attached. The total price on this setup, assuming you get the trade items at an ideal price of around 25,000 rubles or less, is about 135,000 rubles total. Personally, I think that's a very nice price to pay for a well-modded SA58, considering it's basically the same price as a nice AK build, but using much better ammo. You can only trade for one of these per reset though, but it's not a bad way to get the base of a nice SA58 build. Next up for this video, we have a barter trade build that has actually been one of the most requested builds for this series in my comments section and in Twitch chat. The lvo-c M4, which trades for 4 GP coins at mechanic level 3. This trade is pretty stable in price at about 24,000 per coin, so about 96,000 total gets you an M4 with an upgraded handguard, rails, and most importantly, the upgraded MUR-1S receiver, which is the best in slot upgrade and usually costs upwards of 30,000 or more all by itself. Without this receiver, I don't think the trade would really be worth it, but compared to the price of building this piece by piece, it's a pretty good deal. For the first upgrade to this build, I swapped the compensator for the BULLETEC ST6012 compensator sold by mechanic level 4. You can also use the PWS CQB compensator at skier level 3 or peacekeeper level 4, which is about 5,000 rubles cheaper and only loses out 1% on recoil control. You can also swap this out for the Surefire SF3P muzzle and the SOCOM RC2 suppressor if you want to run quiet for about the same recoil stats, but about 30,000 rubles extra. Next up, the handguard on this one already comes with rails, so I went ahead and added the ZENIT RK0 foregrip, which is a cheap option with decent stats at skier level 3. You can also use the RK1 grip here for about 10k extra for a little bit of extra recoil control. As with all of my builds, I also generally add the X400 flashlight and laser, especially since they made the flashlight so much better at blinding people. For the optic, again, I usually stick with an EOTech hollow sight for a lot of my builds, and you can swap this for whatever your preferred optic is. The last upgrade I make to this build is the stock, which is the only part of the barter trade build that really requires a big switch to get better stats. First, I changed the buffer tube to the SI advanced buffer tube at mechanic level 4, which gets you quite a bit of extra recoil control for only 10,000 rubles. Next, I swapped the default SOP mod stock out for the MFT BUS stock, which is the cheapest best in slot option for the M4, and conveniently enough, color matches perfectly with the lvo-c handguard. When it's all put together, it comes out with 47 recoil and around 70 ergonomics with a 30 round mag installed, for a total cost of about 160,000 rubles, assuming you get the trade items for an ideal price of around 24,000. You can dump a lot more money into the M4 in order to sink the recoil lower and lower, but I think this is a pretty solid build for 160k. If you get a lot of boss kills or loot a lot of safes, this is also a pretty good way to turn your GP coins into a nice gun build. For the last build in this video, I've got another one that has been brought up a lot in the comments of my barter trade builds. The M1A SAS build that you can get from Mechanic Level 4 in exchange for 17 packs of Wilston cigarettes. Now personally, I think the only thing holding this barter trade back is the fact that you need 17 packs of these cigarettes. That's a lot of items to hoard in your junk box to make this trade, and it can sometimes be tough to find all 17 on the flea market for a decent price. However, Wilstons are a fairly common drop, especially in supply crates on reserve, which means the price usually stabilizes at around 5,000 rubles on the market, and you can easily find quite a few of them yourself. Plus, you can actually craft Wilstons at the nutrition station using tea and Apollon cigarettes. Going by the average price of Wilstons at around 5,000 rubles, this trade totals around 85,000, which is not bad for the base of a long-barreled M1A SAS build, considering the stock itself sometimes costs over 40,000 rubles. Once I make the trade, I swap the muzzle device out for the same setup I used on the SA58 build earlier, starting off with the LANTAC A3 adapter, then the blast mitigation device, and finally the LANTAC Dragon compensator. With all three of these parts on the muzzle, the M1A has crazy low recoil even when you're spamming left click, and it's one of my favorite setups in the 12.7 patch. Next up, I go for the MAGPUL RVG foregrip because it has a great combo of recoil and ergonomics, which is quite helpful on the M1A, and you don't need to use the most expensive foregrips to get pretty good recoil on this build. I also add the X400 flashlight and laser to blind other players or to just use the laser for aiming. You don't need to swap the default pistol grip, but I do like to switch it to the HOGUE rubber grip because it's quite cheap and almost doubles the ergo boost over the stock grip. For the stock, I first swap out the regular buffer tube for the SI advanced buffer tube to get an increase in the base stats. Next, because this build comes standard with the MOE carbine stock for the trade, I just like to add the rubber butt pad from Peacekeeper level 3 and call it a day. The MOE stock is a great option for the M1A because it only has 1% less recoil than the best in slot option, with a significantly higher ergo boost, which is helpful on a long gun like the M1A. Finally, for the optic, I'm again just putting an EOTech hollow sight on here because it's my general purpose optic of choice. But you can feel free to swap this for whatever you prefer, maybe even something with a bit more range to take advantage of the M1A's accuracy. When it's all put together, this build comes out with 51 recoil and about 66 points of ergonomics with a 30 round mag installed. For the total price, you're looking at about 160,000 rubles, which is pretty solid in my opinion and gives you room to add a magnified optic and stay under 200,000. Well, that about covers it for these three barter trade builds. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you try these out for yourself, best of luck in your raids, and let me know how they went down below. Personally, I would love to see more barter trades like these, which gets you the base of a nice build that you can then modify yourself in exchange for items in-game that we would otherwise just sell without a second thought. I've got some more weapon build videos in the works, taking a look at some 9mm builds and some more underrated guns that you can set up on a decent budget, so stay tuned to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. Thanks for checking out the video. I've got links to my Twitch stream, Discord server, and Patreon page down below for anyone interested. And until next time, stay safe in Tarkov City.